photosynthesis. Professor Thomas, welcome, and the micro is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for inviting me here for this presentation. First of all, I would like to thank and appreciate the partners and the co-workers in my team, in particular Agnieszka Paszuk, who is dealing a lot with epitaxial growth of layer structures for tandem cells, David Ostheimer, in a project where I also will spend some words about direct, efficient photoelectrochemical CO2 reduction, which also touches, of course, the general topic of using tandem cells for artificial photosynthesis. And Manali Nandi, who is also doing a lot of epitaxy. I also appreciate a lot the partners which we have at Caltech, at Joint Center of Artificial Photosynthesis, in particular Harry Atwater, Sophia Cheng, and Matthias Richter, and Helmholtz Center as a historical partner and for a great interaction with Roel van der Kroll, and also the Fraunhofer Institute of Solar Energy Systems in Freiburg, in particular Frank Dimroth, David Lackner, and Jens Ohlmann. And with all these partners, we were able in the past to achieve very good values, as well as using solar cells, multi-junction solar cells, for creating electric power with efficiencies far beyond 40%, and also for photoelectrochemistry, where we have achieved values of solar to hydrogen efficiencies in the range of 19% and beyond in the past. So in addition, we have some more partners I would like briefly to name now here. Tokyo University, Professor Sugiyama, our collaborator in project, DFG project, Alex Romaniuk from Czech Republic, and also the long existing collaboration and work together with Azure Space Solar Power GmbH, in particular Thomas Beckund and Christoph Meller. We are appreciating financial support by the German Research Society and also the BMBF, the Federal Ministry of Research and Education in Germany, in the frame of the project DEFI-CORE, which is the acronym for Direct Electrophotoelectrochemical CO2 reduction. All this needs tandems for doing this, for creating solar fuels. As you can see here, there traditionally are two different ways to use sunlight for producing solar fuels. One is to firstly create the electricity, the electric power, and afterwards using photovoltaic electrolyzer combination. So we use in a two-step process the electricity to drive an electrolyzer. Nature, and that's the way we are following, is doing it differently. It's creating directly from sunlight hydrogen by splitting water in its two compounds, hydrogen and oxygen, by two different reactions. Firstly, the water is oxidized at the anode, which you can see here below, and afterwards the hydrogen ions are reduced to hydrogen gas, and that is done here above at the cathode. And that's exactly the way we would like to follow. It's also called artificial leaves. You want to create a device, no wires to the environment, just the integrated device which you are using for producing hydrogen out of it. And to do this efficiently, and this I want to show, is the way also like nature is doing it. In nature, it's called the set mechanism, so a two-step process, and we do it in tandem cells by exploiting the light more efficiently, and I will show this next. The advantages we have is in this way manifold. By doing this directly, non-assisted, we can use catalysts with different performances. Since we are at lower current densities, it's in principle thermodynamically more favorable. We of course do not need to use two separate systems, one that's producing electricity, and the other one which is driving an electrolyzer. We have only the artificial leaf, no power wires, and so on. So the calamity which we have is that we need catalysts with a high selectivity, and this is even more challenging if we are going to produce other fuels than hydrogen, as it is shown here. Then the selectivity of the catalyst is even much more challenging. So this is in the frame of creating other solar fuels than hydrogen, which is a part of our project, which I already mentioned, DPCOR. So what do I want to show here? What do I want to show you? I would like to show you, firstly, this is a little educational, the requirement for efficient water splitting, direct water splitting. This afterwards then addresses the current state of the field, in particular, of course, costs and competition and economy are always one of the most important points, so I would like to also address this. And finally, I would like to get to the scientific challenges, the science and the different challenges which we have here, the whole optoelectronic device structure and its quality. Secondly, the catalysts and the catalyst development, and thirdly, the whole integrated device. This is all very challenging, and one of the major points is how can we look at these very difficult interfaces, the interfaces, for example, of the solid and liquid environment at the solid-liquid interface. And here, the operando spectroscopy, the in situ spectroscopy, this is all very important, and this is new science which needs to be tackled. So next, I would like to show you the requirements. As you can see here, the whole device and the functionalities are really manifold and challenging. In the heart of everything, and this is many times forgotten, you need to create free energy to drive the process. This free energy in this case needs to have a certain voltage. I will come to this. And of course, what we need to do here is to convert solar radiation, heat radiation, into chemical potentials. In this case, in the first step, the chemical potentials of electrons and holes in the device structure. And this needs a tandem. I will get to this and come to this. Then, in addition, we need the interaction of the electrolyte and the device structure. For this, we might need passivation layers. We need firstly to passivate against non-radiative recombination. So we do not want to destroy the electron-hole pairs, which we have created with light, by destroying them and converting this again into heat. This is what we need to avoid strongly. And in the next step, we need the chemical passivation, so we do not want to destroy the device structure. So this is the protection against the electrolyte, which might dissolve just simply the device. So this is also a great challenge and a functionality which needs to be improved. And then there's many more parts in this, like the tunneling junction in the middle here, in the heart of this tandem structure, which is also a very difficult and challenging part. So just to show this here, we have both electrodes at the anode and the cathode. This solid liquid interface is the catalyst involvement. We have this charge selective contacts which need to separate holes and electrons which we have created, and so on. And just now a little educational introduction. What do we need to achieve? We need to achieve a certain voltage to split water. This is the famous 1.23 electron volts. But this is only the free energy which we need to create and which we need to provide. Secondly, then we have to create the appropriate semiconductor material. And this semiconductor usually at a normal solar radiation, AM1.5, typically has, if this is a very good semiconductor and if we have more or less no losses, then we have a Fermi level splitting. This is the voltage which we are creating by illumination in the semiconductor, which is in the range of 0.4 electron volts lower than the band gap. So the band gap needs to be higher in the range of 0.4 electron volts. Thirdly, we need to see that at both electrodes, at the anode and cathode, we have to create a so-called overpotential. This depends strongly on the catalyst which we are using. This catalyst normally, in the best way, provides overpotentials which are larger than 0.1 eV at the cathode and 0.3 eV at the anode. And this we also need to add. If we sum up everything, we see that we cannot get better at needing a semiconductor energy gap of more than 2 electron volts. And this is exactly the challenge now. If we look again here closer to the semiconductor, the splitting of the Fermi level, the voltage which we are providing is shown here. This depends logarithmically on the charge carrier concentration. This is all educational stuff. I could explain better. Just briefly, we see that we are using such a semiconductor, and compare this to the solar spectrum. We cannot exploit the sunlight efficiently, since there's just not much light in the spectrum left at energies beyond 2 electron volts. So what we do is to create a tandem structure, since this can do both, providing the voltage, which you can see basically here, this splitting, and in addition it can also exploit the solar spectrum, as you can see here on the right hand side. And this is all educational important. The diffusion length of all the charge carriers, electrons and holes, need to be larger than the thickness of your device structure. This is natural, of course, but very important, and is also very often forgotten. You need to transport the charges. Then you need to have to, as I told already, you need to separate all these charges in the tunnel junction, where you have isoenergetic recombination. Then you also need to drive your charge carriers to the boundary of your device structure, to the electrodes. All very important and very challenging. Then we need the catalysts, which with a very high catalytic activity, and we need to have the appropriate electronic alignment of everything, so that we do not have recombination losses at the interfaces. Running further, we need to provide the stability of the whole device, so the durability and resistance to corrosion, and as I already told, the passivation of the surface in 2 different regards, electronically and chemically, very important. And if you do all this, then you can get to a device which you can see here on the right hand side. This is the record device which we have developed together with our fantastic partners at Caltech, as I already introduced at the beginning, Helmholtz Center and Fraunhofer, ISE together. And this piece, what you can see on the right hand side, of course, is too expensive, and but the driver of the development, from my point of view, firstly is the efficiency, and secondly then the costs. I will get to costs later, but the point from my point of view is, if the device is not efficient, it does not make sense to use materials which are cheap, but which can never reach the target, and the target might be having efficiencies in the range of 15 to 20 or even higher percent. So yeah, this is the theoretical limits. On the right hand side, you can see if you are using tandems, you need also to make sure that the combination of the energy gaps of the 2 different parts of the tandem cell, the top and the bottom part, are matched to each other in different regards. Now, one regard is the band gap alignment. So that's what you can see here. You see in the bull's eye, for example, here, for the highest efficiencies, you need to have band gaps in the range of 1 eV for the bottom cell, and in the range of 1.7 or 1.6 eV, 1.8 eV for the top part. And we have combined this not optimally, but not too far away. And this led to this ragged value, which we have realized of beyond 19%, which is already, I think, very good, but can be improved, needs to be improved in different regards. So finally, I would like to touch the costs. Costs, of course, are always one of the major issues which are mentioned if we are talking about the competition, about competitive device structures for such an application. Yeah, as I told, we need certain bandgap combinations, and what you can see here is the bandgap of silicon in the range of 1.1 eV. And if you would like to combine this to an efficient device, what you can see here is the combination with a top cell in the range of, for example, 1.7 or 1.8 eV, then we are here very close to the highest efficiencies of the bull's eye, and this also could promise for a device which would be competitive in terms of costs if we would use the working horse of the semiconductor industry, the silicon, and upgrade it with a very thin layer of C5 semiconductors, for example. And this should be indicated here on this slide. What you can see here is the cell costs in dollars per watt. Normally, these very costly high-performance multi-junction cells are grown on germanium. In this industry area, germanium is the working horse so far, and you can grow almost perfectly C5 semiconductors on top of it. However, it's of course too expensive to get the costs down. This is a first step, and that's what we are also tackling together with our partners, which I already mentioned, is to combine the 3-5 layers with silicon. However, this is also still expensive if we regard the current production routes of growing 3-5 on silicon. And so there is, of course, different screws which we could drive, different cost parameters which need to be tackled. The epitaxy process itself, very important, needs to be cut down. Also, the cost of the silicon itself needs to be reduced. Then, of course, all the economical issues of epitaxial growth, including the waste of everything, gases, precursors, and the back end of life, also needs to be tackled. So to get costs really down by indeed orders of magnitudes. But one more parameter is, of course, to use the device structures under concentrated light. Also, low concentration could be the appropriate issue here for different reasons. We have to imagine that we have gases, and the gases also play a role in terms of the optical path of the solar light. This is a great issue here. You see costs coming from germanium substrates with €100 per 6-inch wafers need to be to get down to costs which are really orders of magnitudes lower. Now, this is something which we are really tackling already for a long time by going T5s on silicon. This is also a challenge in terms of science and the scientific difficulties to do this without losing the performance of the T5 layers by creating a lot of defects. This is also an issue in many different projects which we are already following for quite a long time, and now in the next step we would really like to show how the production costs of silicon can be cut down. Since normally what you are using is a very thin layer of high performance material on a thick layer of very costly and valuable materials like gallium arsenide or germanium, and there is different ways to combine these. One, this is shown here, that has been achieved by Fraunhofer ISE last year to show the direct growth of T5s on silicon and having efficiencies which are already quite competitive, and which could show that there is the opportunity to combine these two materials, T5 and silicon, in an economic in a way which is capable to provide acceptable costs. There's much more ways to combine T5 on silicon. I don't want to show this all here. We are working on different routes for this, including nitrogen into the material, or to grow nano wire structures on silicon out of T5. There's a lot of words to say to this, since there's much challenge, much opportunities in many different regards, material consumption and so on. This is really highly interesting, using quantum structures, and don't want to tell too much about this now. I need to look at the time. Yes, there's still 5 minutes, I see, to talk about the rest of the scientific challenge, and that's what I already talked or mentioned at the beginning. What we need to do is to watch at the critical points of many different steps, from the production of the device structure towards the application of it in the electrochemical environment. And for this, in our lab, we have created a way to look in very difficult chemical environments on our samples. This is the in situ spectroscopy, optical in situ spectroscopy on the left top. Here, the so-called reflection anisotropy spectroscopy, which is more or less only ellipsometry in normal incidence. However, it is on the one hand very surface sensitive, very characteristic, very clear in its signals, and so you can quantitatively really evaluate your surface. It's a really strong tool. On the other hand, it's a difficult tool, since the signals are not intuitively understandable. What you are more or less doing is measuring the difference of the reflectance of polarized light with regard to two different crystal axes. Not easy to understand and a little awkward. However, it rewards afterwards, since you can really follow changes of the surface in situ. This means you can really time-dependent see changes during preparation or during the use of these surfaces when you are doing this optical spectroscopy. And this is necessary, for example, during growth in metal organic chemical vapor deposition. This is the industrial method to grow samples. However, it's still too expensive, and here we are following also ideas to change this whole process, since it is a load in, load out mode, how samples are currently prepared via this method, and this we also would like to tackle. In particular, now Fraunhofer ISE again has here the initiative, and we are always glad to contribute in this very fruitful cooperation to understand difficult process steps here. And how to understand these process steps, you can see on the right hand side we have a broad spectrum of methods to look at these surfaces and to benchmark the in situ signals, then with methods, for example, chemical analysis or XPS and so on. You can see here a lot of methods for looking at the surface, for in situ control, optical methods, not only the reflection and isotropy spectroscopy, also time-resolved photoluminescence. In general, photoluminescence is a very strong and important tool. We can look at the defect analysis, for example, with electron channeling contrast imaging, also a very nice method for looking and quantifying and qualifying the different defects which you need to minimize. Yeah, that's what, but this is not the full spectrum of methods you really need. You really need a lot of different approaches, partners, and this is a great and fantastic challenge of science here in this whole field, which we are touching here. Now, one thing which we realized in our lab now is to build a combination of the analysis and preparation, which I already explained, and then afterwards the contamination-free transfer to the photoelectrochemical environment, and in there we still proceed to look at the surfaces in situ and operando, and this is done with this very new chamber or container which we have developed now for doing both photoelectrochemistry and surface and interface analysis. And this is done in a project also together with fantastic partners, which are partially already mentioned. Yeah, just to show this again here, this is the experimental setup for combining surface analysis, surface detection. For example, here you can see the differences of differently oxidized surfaces in the electrochemical environment, and then you get a picture of your interface. This is what we right now are following, and which we have already started to do. I think I go over this now and get to the end. What we are basically doing with this control to create fantastic surfaces which do have the appropriate surface structure, which is very, very important to avoid defects. I already explained, and this is just to show you intuitively. Yeah, it looks already very good, the control which you can do. So I wanted to show you the challenges and the ways we could go to develop artificial photosynthesis, and disruptive method for producing clean fuels. And here we have already been quite successful and got to good values, promising values. Now the next step is to create demonstrators to filling all the bridges and gaps in the fundamental science, and to complement the different expertise you need, the different know-hows. And this is basically now the end of my talk. This is just a summary. We need tandems for doing this. And again, I would like to thank you for your attention and for the invitation. And I'm glad to answer any kind of questions.
Thank you, Professor Thomas, for your presentation and to give us the opportunity to have more information about artificial photosynthesis, which could be used to produce a hydrogen fuel that will be energy efficient and carbon neutral. Also, it's really a new technology which could become part of our sustainable energy mix. But the challenges is to develop much more this technology to be more efficient, durable, and cost effective. Thank you very much. I will ask the audience if they have some question and to interact with you about your presentation. Please.
Professor HAJJAJI, can I have one?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank Professor HANNAPPEL for these nice presentations, and I learn a lot. I learned a lot about this methodology and how we can go from photosynthesis or to electrochemical systems. My concerns about the catalyst, because in Wajda we are developing some cluster based on nitrogen compounds with copper, with cheap metals. I saw your system with rhodium and ruthenium. Do you have any idea about if we can use some cheaper compounds like iron or copper or cobalt? Because in Morocco we produce a lot such compounds. And thanks a lot.
Yes, this is of course also a very important question and a very important issue. And yes, you are right. Right now, the catalysts and the catalyst costs are not appropriate with those catalysts which you have mentioned, like ruthenium oxide or rhodium or platinum, iridium. This is all, of course, very precious materials, and this might be indeed a advantage of the direct photoelectrochemistry, the way of this direct way to produce fuels, since the current densities are much lower than, for example, for an electrolyzer. And indeed, exactly, we are trying and in a larger extent to cooperate with partners for developing cheaper and less precious materials for catalysts. And I think you already mentioned very important candidates for this. Yes, indeed, you are right. The materials you have addressed and already mentioned are really candidates to do this. And I think this is one of the most important questions and one of the most important challenges which you brought up, which has to be tackled. I myself, I'm not that expert for catalysts, so we have partners and we are happy for partners exactly in this range. But just to mention this last sentence, it is then in a second step always very important to couple this catalyst to the real system. Yeah, so you cannot develop the catalyst only alone. Yeah? So you need to see how to adapt this to the integrated system.
Thanks a lot, Professor HANNAPPEL.
Pleasure.
May I ask one question, Professor HAJJAJI?
I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So good morning, so everybody. So Professor HANNAPPEL, so I enjoyed your talk. This is, by the way, Dr. Dual from Spain, from Toledo. I'm physical chemist. So you said about, of course, the cost and efficiency. What about the lifetime, let's say, of the device? And I guess this device is working in the lab. So when you're going to bring it outside, so like in the sea, did you consider, of course, the nature of water there? Because you have a lot of stuff, no? The biological teams, the chemical team, and so on. Can you tell us something about this, please?
Yes, yeah, this is also another very important point. You have seen maybe in this picture which I showed. Can you see still my presentation?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is, I think, the very complex picture which shows all the parts which you are mentioning and which are very important. Again, this is a very delicate point and a very important question which you are raising right now. This protection layer, for example, in this case, or as it is called here, passivation layer, this is one way to tackle exactly this stability points, as I have shown here and mentioned explicitly, is exactly what you are saying. The stability absolutely is a delicate point, and materials and the way to prepare the materials that need to be developed. One route, for example, is of course the where do I have it? No, doesn't matter. One route is of course to use, for example, oxides, for example, titanium dioxide or other oxides to protect your maybe or your potentially delicate and device structure which might be destroyed. And how exactly to do this without creating pinholes, for example, where the dissolution of your device structure starts. This is also one very important challenge, and this needs to be fulfilled. And you are right, explicitly under harsh conditions. If you are in the field and not in the lab, and for a long time, this needs real development. But the point is, you could, for example, use these functional layers, these passivation layers, these protection layers, or you need to create a semiconductor interface to the electrolyte, which is kind of self-passivating, which might also be possible, which this we have shown in the publication down here on the right-hand side. We call it the in situ functionalization in this article in Nature Communications. This might also be another way how to tackle this problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
May I ask one question? Inawi, hello?
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
Inawi.
Thank you, HANNAPPEL, for this very nice talk and with a lot of pedagogy, and we understand a lot today. And I know how much you are very much involved in this kind of, you are one of the most known scientists working on water splitting and the networking with Caltech and Fraunhofer and Helmholtz. It's one of the best networking. My question is, as you explained in the beginning, that the free energy, you need a free energy. This is 1.23 volt or electron volt to get, and this we can also get it with 10 films, I guess. If we use just 10 films like silicon and perovskite, for example, which bring us to the talk of Eva Lauerman in the afternoon. My question is, do you think, what is the potential of this tandem perovskite silicon for water splitting? Do you think it can be one of the solution for the cost for this for this technology? That's one question. The other question is the competition with the power to hydrogen using just PV and electrolyzers. You know, you can use just silicon PV or whatever, and you power supply electrolyzer and you get hydrogen. Do you think this technology will be, if it's mature and the all problem are resolved, can stop research on artificial photosynthesis?
Yes, so both very good points and questions, and yes and yes. Firstly, yes, the perovskites I would also see as real candidates together, for example, with silicon. This would be, in terms of costs, absolutely a good way. And yes, we would like to follow this also with partners. We are right now trying to create a collaborative research center together with partners which are also following this. And it's clear there's even more challenges with regard to the material stability in this regard, since, you know, they are hygroscopic partially, and they dissolve in water, and the perovskites, and there might be a problem of toxicity also. This is also, I think, a point. It would not be good if you would dissolve lead in water and afterwards having a mixture of a very toxic liquid, for example. Yeah, but absolutely, this is extremely interesting, and I would just say yes. Let's look at this, how to solve this problem by either exchanging materials in the perovskites or by protecting it very good. And yeah, just saying yes, yes, a good point, and one should absolutely follow this. And the second point also, yes, of course, the competition with PV plus electrolyzer is obvious, and there's many things to say to this. One point is, following the artificial photosynthesis means also to support the PV plus electrolyzer array, since many issues of this are issues of both. Issues of both are, for example, catalyst development. Issues of both is using the optimum device structures for creating electricity. Issues of both are, of course, stability. Also for electrolyzers, the stability is a problem, and issues of both is costs. So there's a lot of overlap between both of these methods. My thinking is it's much too early now to already finally evaluate and say, oh, this is the appropriate way and this we should omit, since future is long and we don't know where we go, and we need to solve this problem generally, and long in the future we, I think, will develop more and more and more and get to more solutions. And so these two different points I just want to mention here, but there's much more to say. One point is, yes, it's good, and both issues have a great overlap, and it's good for both to develop certain ingredients. Secondly, one should follow both ways, and of course it's very nice if you would imagine to have a future with artificial leaves.
Yes. One short and last question. You have shown also on your slide different redox system for fixing carbon oxide, which are unfortunately very close to water splitting in your diagram, electrochemical diagram. Are you also interested in this on these problem, or in other words, yes, this one. We can see here that all reactions are unfortunately very close to each other, so it's very difficult to find the right catalyst for this reaction without involving another one. So my questions, are you also in your networking interested in the fixation of CO2 also with your device?
Yes, yes. You are right. This energetically is very close, and energetically too close, one can say, to selectively produce these different solar fuels. So this is a real problem. As far as we can see, they are really in a narrow range energetically. So the selectivity of the fuels needs to be done by the catalysts, and this is even more challenging. We are doing some work in this direction, yes, trying to realize something by using tandem structures, and we have a network project together with TU München, with Helmholtz Center, with Fraunhofer ISE, and with Azure Space, a BMBF network project of the Federal Ministry of Research and Education, exactly tackling this, so CO2 reduction and fixation. And this is as I just told, more challenging, and the deciding parameter here is the catalyst development and catalyst selectivity. But we are also trying to do something in this direction, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay, thank you. There is other questions. So I have one. It's about lifetime of materials used on this system on artificial photosynthesis. This is a significant challenge because many materials degrade quickly when exposed to sunlight or corrode when exposed to oxygen or water. What about that?
Yes, yeah, I already spent a few words about this most challenging issue which you are addressing here, and we are aware of this. And the lifetime, of course, is always, stability is always a problem. We always see this in different materials, degradation mechanisms, being it also for perovskites currently, which is also still an issue, and the harsh requirements or the harsh conditions outside. We have seen many effects also already in the past in photovoltaics, the so-called potential induced degradation effect, for example, PID, or the light-induced degradation effect, or for amorphous silicon, we have seen the Stapler-Wronski effect, and we have seen many effects for different devices. Some have been solved, some have not been solved. And for this system, it's much more challenging. I agree totally. Yeah. But there, as I told, are some strategies. Strategies are protect devices on the one or the other way. One needs to see. Maybe we will build an integrated device where the semiconductor does not really see the water. Yeah. So complete protection. Yeah. There's many ways to do this, and I think it's the good thing is it's extremely interesting scientifically. And it's very relevant. So this solid-liquid interfaces are also important for other electrochemical systems like batteries, for example, and totally different applications, sensors, and. So I think it's a very good field for science, and new facilities need to be built to look at this. For example, for operando systems where you would like to apply surface science on solid-liquid interfaces, which is, of course, needs new maybe beamlines at synchrotron facilities, which might need other systems. Yeah, just saying, there's much to say also about this, but I totally agree with you. It's challenging.
Okay, thank you. The last question is about the challenge to optimize the yield of chemical reaction by avoiding recombination of the charge generated by the photon after they have been absorbed. How we can do that?
Yeah, this is the famous electronic alignment. So electronically, we need to avoid always, if we are converting solar radiation into free energy, this is the first step, which I already mentioned, into the chemical potentials, firstly of electrons and holes, and then afterwards hydrogen and oxygen. Via this way, we always need to avoid this non-radiative recombination. The recombination is at interfaces where you have, for example, wrong defects. Sometimes we have defects which are peaceful and friendly. We have this in, for example, Chalcopyrite CCIGS solar cells, where we have a lot of defects and they are all peaceful and do not lead to losses. Sometimes we have defects which are strong channels for non-radiative recombination. This is all the electronic alignment. What we need to avoid is, of course, defects in general. We don't want to have them. And if we have them, then we would like to passivate them. But this electronic alignment, this is exactly what I'm saying. we need to adapt all the ingredients, the catalysts, and the functional layers in such a way that at the interfaces we do not have strong electronic states, for example, in the middle of the band gap, which is the worst thing for this non-radiative recombination. But I think we have seen in the past that we also can tackle these problems in real device structures. I'm always saying the PV has been so successful in the past, and the solar cell development so impressive that we can really look optimistically in the future to solve also even more difficult problems.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Thomas. I think Professor Hamouti arrived at the end of this session. I would like to thank deeply Professor Thomas to give us this opportunity to share with us his knowledge about artificial photosynthesis and to discuss with us this very interesting subject. I would like also to thank the organizing committee for their effort for the successful week of science done by this team. I would like also to thank the audience for their participation. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Yeah, great pleasure. Thank you also again.
Thank you, Professor Thomas HANNAPPEL, for this very, very interesting lecture to show how can we emit nature to produce electricity from proposed devices. Thank you, Professor SOUAD HAJJAJI, for moderating this session. You have one question again on the chat.
Okay, we have time.
Yes, for 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, the question is coming from Professor Rashid Touzani. It's about if you use the same approach when you are converting CO2 to organic materials.
Say it again. When we are producing CO2, what was the question?
I'm sorry, I have to. If you are using the same approach when you, about converting CO2 to organic materials.
It's not the same. There is also, of course, an overlap. So some principles are the same, of course. We need to provide free energy and so on and so on. The difference is, of course, with regard to the amount of free energy. In other words, we need to provide a higher voltage, for example, and to provide a higher voltage, we need to create 3 junction cells. I have not shown this explicitly, but for water splitting, you see that the optimum you can reach is by a 2 junction system. So like nature is doing a 2-step process, a set process. And for CO2 reduction, you need higher voltages, and these higher voltages are then provided with 3 junctions, which is even another challenge, and that is one of the differences. And of course, the other point is the different catalysts we need. So in this regard, it's different. You need 3 junctions to do this most efficiently. Since we have higher voltages, which you need higher over potentials, which are created. And the other point is we need different catalysts. So there's a lot of differences, but also a lot of overlap.
Okay.
Thank you so much for you.
Yeah, it's always a great pleasure. I thank you again also. Yeah.
And hope to meet you again more time in next ICMES 2021 in the south of Morocco, of course, and in other meetings.
Great, and thank you again. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you also, Ahmed. Very good. Let's stay in touch.
Nice to meet you. Muchas gracias, Professor Ahmed Nawi.
Merci, merci.
Muchas gracias. ¿Se habla español?
Sí, hablo español.
Bueno. Vaya. Aquí ya multilingual.
¿Cómo está?
Parler, Monsieur Duhat, donc il faut une petite phrase en Espagne.
En espagnol.
سي سينيور.
الحاج ارسل لك واحد لا ليست ديال لي كوريي غنرسلها لك منها
وحطها للسيج فالي باش يعطيها لك الاخوان.
غادي نرسل لك واحد لا ليست دابا واحد 15 مينيت غنرسلها لك الله يخليك شي جفالي ماشي
ان شاء الله.
مزيان وفانتاستيك كونفرنس فانتاستيك يا
لا رائعه راني كنكتب عليها واحد التعليق يعني الله يعطيك الصحه السي ناوي الله يطولنا في عمرك على الاقتراح ديال هذا الاستاذ رائع المحاضره سي سير غير كيقول لي ام بي راه فيها شي 134 بارطاج ديال هذا الكونفرنس يصير باللي راه غادي تصل كعادتها يعني كلك ميلي ديال سويفي.
وانا راه غادي نوصل غير 30 ل 40 انا في 30 ل 40 نوصل الفيسبوك ما نديرو والو.
لا صافي حنا اون فا سيغ باسي كيقول لا كونفرنس ديالك يعني غير فقط على الجوجل ميت.
صافي الله يخليك.
¿Cómo funcionan las cosas en España?
En España las cosas de que del COVID de la lluvia ahora mismo hay muchísima lluvia. ما يفهموش الاخرين دابا كاين الشتا بزاف دابا كتصب الشتا بزاف دابا كاين الشتا يا الكوفيد راه شويه ستابل ما بقاش بزاف ديال تيتعداو الناس بزاف هودات هذيك لاكورب ولات هودات تقريبا بحال عندنا جلوبالمون بحال 350 كا في 100,000 واحد زعما هودات ما بقاتش عاليه بزاف قبل راه كانت 500 600 700 في شي بلايص كانت وصلت حتى 1000 كاع دابا تقريبا البارح كان 350 في 100,000 وباقي بطبيعه الحال باقي دابا الناس كيموتوا دابا حيت عرفتي لاكورف ديال الاموات ماشي بحال لاكورف ديال كيتعادوا ماشي بحال ايوا دابا كيصوبوا دابا يلاه هذا اليوم هذا راه ان بلان في المينيستير ديال وزاره الصحه دار ان بلان ديال الفاكيناسيون كيفاش غنبداو الفاكيناسيون باش غنبداوها
تعرف المغرب حنا ميم شو جو كخوا
دابا يلاه وزير الصحه كان كيتكلم غير الصباح هذا داك البرنامج ديال الفاكيناسيون انت عطى داك كيفاش سواء كان شوف الفاكيناسيون كيف دايره عرفتي راه كاين بعض لي فاكسان بحال دابا ديال اوكسفورد وداك الشيء باقي شويه ديال الشك في هذاك 90% بقى داك المشكل ديال الفاكيناسيون عطاو مع نص الدوز ما عطاوش الدوز كامله ودابا الواحد ما عرفاش يتيق فيها كان خطا ربما كاين اخطاء اخرين يكونوا ثاني ما عرفتش.
اوكي
سيدي احمد نشكرك بزاف على هذا الاقتراح ديال هذا الاستاذ
ايوا هذاك راه سيت ان كوليك دوبوي 30 ans حنا تنخدموا انصومبل
حنا في اللابوراتوار اون بريبار دي كاتاليزور دونك من بعد نشوفوا الا كانت بوسيبيليتي دو لي تيستي دونك
بيان سور انا جي ترافايي في هذا لو دومين مع au départ quand j'ai fait mon habilitation je pourrais aider un peu
Oui, merci beaucoup. Oui, merci beaucoup. On a fait.
J'essaye de travailler un peu avec les gens, avec un collègue à Paris, Hafid Talib.
Oui.
Et on essaye de faire quelque chose. Si vous voulez, on pourra discuter ça.
Oui,
excellent. Intéressant. Oui. Le problème des matériaux pour la catalyse, c'est très important, parce que tu peux avoir suffisamment de voltage pour la réaction thermodynamiquement. Mais cinétiquement, tu as besoin d'un catalyseur, sinon ça ne marche pas.
Oui.
احنا نسوق واحد السؤال راه انتم عليك السؤال اللي طرحت له انت على ذاك السي او 2 من بعد كياخذ بزاف ديال المواد ميثانول وكذا وكذا بطبيعه الحال مهم بزاف في الاندستري. دابا كاين ناس بزاف، واحد السيد هنا في اسبانيا راه معروف بزاف عالميا، ربما تكون عارف سميتو، اسمه افلينو كورما، كيخدم بزاف في كاتاليز هيتروجين، سيرتو ديفلوبمون بزاف تاع لي زيوليت. عنده بزاف ديال سميتو ديال خماش بحال ما عنده شي اش نقول لك شي 150 باتونت، بزاف تاع الحوايج، دار بزاف تاع ديال بلانت في سميتو العربيه السعوديه، في اليابان، في امريكا، بزاف دار بزاف. ولي دار في هاد لي زيوليت بطبيعه الحال ديفلوب بزاف تاع
وي سي تري امبورطون لي زيوليت. وي
لا اكسبير، هو البوب ولا البابا ديال الزيوليت في العالم. البورتغال افينو كورما دابا راه رقم 20 واحد لي بلوس سيتي في لو موند. زعما على كل حال المهم نمشيو للعلوم. دابا ديفلوبا بزاف تاع لي زيوليت فيهم دي كاتاليز بطبيعه الحال دوبي، وعندهم سبيسيفيتي كما قلت انت، عندهم سيليكتيفيتي باش سميتو تقدر تحط سي او 2 في هاد البيروفسكي الزيوليت فيها اش غنقول لك نيمبورت كوا ميتنا، بحال فيها الكوبالت هذيك كيعطيك الميثانول، لا فيها بحال الزيك كتعطيك كذا وكذا، تري سيليكتيف وكتصب بزاف الاطنان. دابا هاد البرانسيب هذا لحقاش هو السيد هذا كنتكلم على السيليكا. نعم ما سمعتكش.
dans la nature, dans les algues, dans les plantes. Ce sont ces centres-là qui permettent la réaction de catalyse. C'est très important. Quand tu as le cobalt entouré d'un certain nombre d'électrons, خاصك 4 électrons moins باش دير splitting مثلا. خاصهم يكونوا دوك لي 4 électrons disponibles ماشي liés l'atome, ils sont disponibles pour aller vers la réaction chimique. Ou les éolites ils permettent ce genre de choses. C'est très important.
لا الكونسيبت اللي بغيت نكومونتي انا هو زعما دابا وين بحال كاين بحال ماتريال بازي سور السيليسيوم مال اس اي ولا كيسميوه فهمتي، سيليكا بيز ماتيريالز. دابا كاين الا دابا واحد دار غير ماشي سيليسيوم، ماشي غير امورف هكذا، مي بلوتو بازي سور بحال لي زيوليت ولا ام سي ام 41 ولا اس بي ا ايتترا نو مثلا ميزوبورز ماتيريال.
جو فو ليسي تبارك الله عليكم.
شكرا. دابا ولكن الواحد يستعمل غير هذا سميتو، يستعملهم دي كاتاليز فيهم الداخل باش يكونوا فريمون تري سيليكتيف فهمتي، ولكن ابليكي ثاني مع الالكتروشيمي الكتروسيل مع الكونسيبت ديال الالكتروسيل.
اوكي très bien. اوكي
يا صافي نشوفوا ان شاء الله من بعد. يلا
بون جورني
مع السلامه. مع السلامه.
اوكي سي حمودي
الحاج
الله يطول عمركم.
Donc, cet après-midi, hein?
Inch'Allah, à partir de 15h, Inch'Allah.
Et on doit discuter avec le détail avec ton collègue sur... Donc, j'ai besoin de les données pour compléter. Je ne sais pas si vous m'avez envoyé le truc, mais j'ai besoin des données pour terminer le email et vous l'envoyer. Et aussi, non, vous n'avez encore rien envoyé, donc il faut le faire. Il faut m'envoyer les données.
C'est senior.
Okay, thank you very much.
Check your mail.
Okay, bye. Okay.
ايوا حفظكم الله ورعاكم. سي زرعي شكرا جزيلا سي زرعي ان كنت تسمعنا، شكرا بزاف. سي علي شكنان صباح مبارك وجمعة مباركة. سي كمال شكرا جزيلا، تبارك الله عليك السي كمال، رقاك الله إلى درجات الكمال وحفظك الله. صلى عليك الله والملائكة يا نور خلق الله محمد.
الحموتي بروفيسور الحموتي بروفيسور الحموتي
راني معك الشاب.
انا راني خارج دابا، راني غادي نمشي نتلاقى مع اوفي.
ايوا تبارك الله.
درنا مع 12.
ايوا ان شاء الله.
السيفي كمال، السيفي كمال.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم سي بخير.
وياك السلام الله. اهلا وسهلا.
راك تشوفني مليح؟
واه الحمد لله.
اسمح لي باسكو جافي ان بتي بروبليم ثاني المره مع البيسي.
ماشي مشكل، لا ماشي مشكل.
صافا واش عقبت مليح؟ صافا
الحمد لله بارك الله فيك، الله يعطيك الصحة ويطول عمرك.
الحمد لله. cet après-midi vous aurez une autre conférence non؟
واه وحدة 15 وحدة 16h30.
ان شاء الله ان شاء الله باذن الله نكونوا ان شاء الله. demain ان شاء الله سي لا كلوتور نو؟
demain vers midi ان شاء الله.
يا ميرسي بوكو سي بالخير.
مرحبا الشريف ديالنا، تبارك الله عليك. الله يلاقينا بسوء الخير.
الله.